Canada is going more nuclear. So a group of premiers, three premiers from three different regions in Canada, got together and decided that they would start supporting the design and building of small modular nuclear power stuff. Now, it's going to take 5 to 10 years before any of these actually get built. But it's important. It's important that there were three of them, and it's important that they came up with a long-range plan. On Twitter, a gentleman, Zach Cantor, he saw that article and he said, one huge drawback of nuclear power is that it doesn't dismantle systems of oppression. It only produces clean energy. This makes it unsuitable for solving the climate crisis, which isn't just about the environment. So I said to myself, what kind of background does he have? So I looked at his LinkedIn profile. He has a BA in science and marketing. Pretty good. But what would science and marketing tell you about changing the economic and political system in this country? Not much. This is a perfect example of what I call loserthink, which is that the person involved, Zach Cantor, from all indications, is a very high IQ person. So there's nothing about what I'm saying which should be construed as saying anything about his general intelligence, because it looks pretty high. But he's got clearly a blind spot for something really important. He's got a blind spot for economics. Now, on Twitter, a gentleman said that Zach Cantor, so he's a user on Twitter, Zach Cantor, and he saw that article and he said, one huge drawback of nuclear power is that it doesn't dismantle systems of oppression. It only produces clean energy. This makes it unsuitable for solving the climate crisis, which isn't just about the environment. And then he showed a picture which is saying that one benefit of climate change, let's say policy, would be to dismantle the entire patriarchy system, basically the entire system of government. So I said to myself, what kind of background would you have to have such a bad opinion? Like, what kind of training, experience would you have to hold this point of view? Because one thing I can tell you for sure, it's not economics, and it's not politics, probably not history. So I said to myself, what kind of background does he have? So I looked at his LinkedIn profile. He has a BA in science and marketing. Pretty good. And he's involved in some startups. So he's technical, and he also has some marketing. Pretty good. Smart guy. So I'm going to say if he were to take an IQ test, probably do really well, because he's got advanced degrees. But what would science and marketing tell you about changing the economic and political system in this country? Not much, right? So he's got this giant blank spot. If you study economics, you're certainly not, well, if you're honest about it, you're not trying to turn the country into a completely different socialist experiment. But here's the thing that most smart economists would know. If your country is doing better than it has ever done in the history of humankind, your economy is the strongest it's ever been, and on pretty much every metric we're improving, under those conditions, do you make a large, risky change to your system? Is the right time to make a large, risky change to your entire system, dismantling it and rebuilding it, when things are going better than they've ever gone before? No. No, it's not. 100% of economists would tell you the same thing, unless they're also in politics, in which case, that can change things. But I don't think there's anybody who has business experience or economics experience who would tell you that a good time to change everything, like a big, risky, major change from the ground up in your society and your economics and everything, is when everything's better than it's ever been. That's exactly the time you don't do that. So this is a perfect example of what I call loserthink, which is that the person involved, Zach Cantor, from all indications, is a very high IQ person. So there's nothing about what I'm saying which should be construed as saying anything about his general intelligence, because it looks pretty high. But he's got clearly a blind spot for something really important. Somebody says he's trolling, meaning that you can't tell the difference between parody and reality, right? Because I tweeted that this morning. This is one of those opinions where you look at it and you go, I don't know, is he just a really good troll? Or does he actually believe this? And then I look at his background and go, oh, he could believe this. He's got a blind spot for economics.